Hello, beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining me on another video. And if it's your first time, my name is Michaela. Welcome to Howla Michaela. Today's video is a booktube video. I'm going to be making some recommendations. It is Valentine's Day as of the recording of this video, but love is always relevant. So I'm going to give my recommendations of 3 books about love that I absolutely adore and recommend all of you to read. The first book I want to recommend is the one I have in my hand, because the other 2 I don't have physical copies of right now. But these are in no particular order, by the way. But this one is called The Mastery of Love, and it's by Don Miguel Ruiz. He is the author of The 4 Agreements. And in this book, I got it in like a box set with this, The 4 Agreements, and The Voice of Knowledge. But yes, The Mastery of Love. When I read this book, it was probably around, it was in the month of February, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And it was at a time where I needed it, basically. I was more attached, I would say, than in love. And this book taught me how not to have these kind of expectations of other people. I don't remember all of the specific details, and I probably should have gone back through it. This was before I started making annotations in books, so I can't even flip to actually, there's a bookmark in here. Let me see if there's something on this page. Let me just read something. In every relationship, there are 2 halves of that relationship. One half is you, and the other half is your son, your daughter, your father, your mother, your friends, your partner. Of those halves, you are only responsible for your half. You are not responsible for the other half. It doesn't matter how close you think you are or how strongly you think you love. There's no way you can be responsible for what is inside another person's head. You can never know what that person feels, what that person believes, all the assumptions they make. You don't know anything about that person. That is the truth. But what do? We try to be responsible for the other half, and that is why relationships in hell are based on fear, drama, and the war of control. That's so funny. I did have like a tiny bookmark in there as I was saying that I didn't make any underlines and stuff like that. So that's just one of the many things. And when it says hell here as well, one of the concepts in the Toltec wisdom books is that when we're living with our programs and our attachments, we are essentially living in our own version of hell. I wish I could say it in a better way that was more aligned with the way it's put in the book. But I just wanted to clarify on that. So I think that's a great message to have turned to, that you're only in charge or responsible for your half of the relationship, because you don't know what's inside the other person's head. Even if they tell you what's in their head, that's their interpretation of what they feel. It's not necessarily, it's only as good as how well they understand it. So if they don't even understand or fully engage with where they are mentally, physically, emotionally, if they're not conscious or aware of those things, how can they explain it to you in a way that you will understand if they don't even understand it for themselves, So it outlines so many different principles about love, and actually I should probably reread it, to be fair, because it is just amazing. Let me see if there's any chapters that call out to me. One of the sections is called Sex, the Biggest Demon in Hell. Just get this book, read it, and you will not regret it. You will not regret it, I promise you. The next book I'm going to talk about, I don't have a physical copy on me right now, but it is called One Beyond Time, and it's by Gates McGibbons. I read this book last year, I think. Last year. And it's actually a series. There's 4 in the series. And the author of the book basically describes writing this book through automatic writing. I saw her first on, Gaia? And she was being interviewed about this series, and I was just fascinated because one of my favorite books of all times is Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And he automatic writes in his books as well, where he'll be having a conversation with God and he'll write a question and then he'll kind of, an answer will flow to him and he'll write it down. Well, this book, he doesn't call it channeling, but he just, he calls it that dialogue. But the way in my head I interpret that is through like automatic writing. So not writing from your head, writing from your heart, from the Akashic records, just writing from somewhere else, not from a thought that you conjured up yourself. Anyway, I saw this interview on Gaia with Gates McGibbons, and she was talking about how she came to write these books. I can't remember the title of the whole series, but the first one is One Beyond Time. After I read it, I needed to read the other three, so I bought all 4 books now. And I have them, but they're kind of books that if you have other conscious friends, you want them to read this too, because it's essentially about this androgynous soul that gets split into a divine feminine and divine masculine for the first time and gets put down on earth. And it's a story about how they find each other through different time periods over and over again. And what makes it super interesting is the settings, because I live in the UK and I'm trying to see what not to say and what to say, because I'm pretty sure none of you guys have read this book, so I don't want to ruin it. But basically, the settings of these books are very key areas in spiritual history and history in general as well. I'll just say a couple, like Celtic, Roman, pre-time. I don't know. I would say like Atlantean even. I don't know. It's so good. It's such a good series because the way these characters interact is just on another level. It's not the bog standard descriptions of love that you find in most other books out there, And the fact that the author herself said when she types from her dictation of what she's written through this process that she does, she's reading it for the first time as well. And as she transcribes it onto the digital format, her and her team, they'll look up these details and they are always historically correct or in line with a historical figure that she didn't even know about or study beforehand, but she's written about them, and sure enough, their characteristics and the person actually exists. So enough said. It's a brilliant series. I highly recommend it. One Beyond Time, Gate McGibbons, and the illustrations or the paintings rather on the covers are just divine as well. So yeah, highly recommend that book series. Highly, highly, highly. The third book I would recommend is another book I read last year or maybe the year before, but it always comes to mind when I think of good love stories. It is called The Beautiful Ones, and it's by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This, at the time that I read it, was the first book in a long time that really stimulated me mentally, emotionally, physically. It was just a great story. I don't know if it's because it had certain elements of like special powers, but it was also set back in, I don't know what timing. They talk about high society and going it, so it must have been maybe around like the 1800s or something like that, maybe your early 1900s, the early 20th century perhaps. I'm not sure exactly what time period, I can't remember now, but it's like Jane Austen meets The Prestige. I don't know if you've ever seen that film with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, but is kind of like that sort of time period. But the love story is just chef's kiss. It's not too pretentious, it's realistic. You've got some elements of love triangle, love square, actually. Yeah, like a love square in there. You've got kind of the wild character, the very prim and proper character, the outcast, the one that came up from nothing and is now successful after doing all of this hard work. You know, you've got such a nice range of characters, and the way they mix and blend just feels real. You know, sometimes in romance stories, you're like, oh, it's a bit too fluffy, or oh, that's, you know, not believable, or, you know, why you can't understand why they actually even like one another. Like, they hated each other 5 pages ago. Like, why are they all of a sudden in love? Like, are these people emotionally mature enough to even be in a relationship? That's how I feel sometimes. Like, I just feel like I can't get into some of these stories where it's like, you just see these dynamics that are just toxic, and it just kind of ruins the magic of the love story for me. That's why I really like intelligent, emotionally intelligent love stories like One Beyond Time. And this is another one that I would say really just makes sense. I didn't feel any resistance to believing this story and really becoming immersed in it. It wasn't like, oh, why is that? Or why are they doing that? That doesn't make any sense. Or this progression didn't lead up to this, you know, moment. It's very believable. I keep saying that, but there's a lot of books these days that I just don't resonate with, because I'm like, okay, it's just, they just wanted to put these elements together. It's not that they've actually built it brick by brick to where there's a satisfaction when something happens between two characters, you know? So yeah, The Beautiful Ones, another one I would highly, highly recommend. So those are 3 books about love that I would recommend for you. Yeah, if you have any recommendations for me based on what I've said in this video that you think I might like, please leave those below. And yeah, I hope you had a really good Valentine's Day, and sending you all lots of love. Ciao.